Across the causeway, it was said to be a make or break situation for Malaysia Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin today as the Malaysia 2021 budget had its final reading and vote, and the result came in at about 4 p.m. that the budget has been carried by a slender margin of 111 to 108 votes in favour.
Yes, indeed. So what does this result represent for Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin and also to long-time opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim? Let's find out more from political analyst Professor James Chin, director from the Asia Institute, University of Tasmania. Professor Chin, welcome to Singapore today. News this afternoon that the Malaysian Parliament approved that budget 2021 by that margin 111 to 108. So what does this result indicate?
Well, the result doesn't indicate anything in substance. Basically, it doesn't tell us anything new. For example, as you mentioned, the margin was very, very tight, and we knew that beforehand that Muhyiddin, the incumbent prime minister, had a majority of 2 or 3. So this simply confirms the number that he has in parliament. But I think the much more important outcome is that this also means that the attempted takeover by Anwar Ibrahim back in September this year, I think that project has been stopped by this vote. So essentially what we're seeing is a politically strengthening of the Muhyiddin administration. By passing the budget, he shows that he's able to handle parliament and is able to handle a challenge for Anwar Ibrahim. I think that's the most important takeaway point.
Professor Chin, in September, the opposition leader, Anwar Ibrahim, claimed to have substantial numbers to topple Muhyiddin Yassin's Perikatan Nasional coalition. Where does he stand now? And should he be considering stepping down because he doesn't have the numbers?
Well, it's quite clear that Anwar did not have the numbers, or even if he had the numbers were very, very slim. And when the numbers left him in the last couple of weeks, obviously he lost the slim majority he had. Where does this leave him politically? I think it leaves him in a very weak position. But having said that, it's very unlikely that he will step down. You have to remember, when you're asking somebody to step down, it means that there must be somebody and a PKR who's ready to step out to be the leader. If you look at the current PKR, you find that at the second level, there's really nobody else who has Anwar Ibrahim's stature and who's capable of taking over the leadership of PKR and Pakatan Harapan. So yes, he has been weakened politically in a very significant way, but no, he's unlikely to step down because there's nobody else to replace him.
That said, there's also a move to promote Shafie Apdal as the next opposition leader. How do you see that progressing?
That's interesting. The people promoting Shafie Apdal are basically the media. So there's been a lot of excitement. But if you speak to the actual players, most of them will not support Shafie. Part of the reason is because we still have this divide in Malaysian politics between Malaya and Sabah and Sarawak, and many people feel that they're not comfortable enough to select a leader from Sabah to be a national leader. I think people are quite happy to have Shafie Apdal as the deputy prime minister, assuming the opposition takes power. But I don't think Malayans are ready to have somebody from Sabah or Sarawak to be the prime minister.
What do you think of these two rivals coming together? Yesterday, we had former Premier Dr. Mahathir and his longtime political foe, Tengku Razaleigh Hamzah, fronting a media conference to offer their services to guide Malaysia's economic revival. Dr. M also said he opposes the PN government's budget as it does not improve the nation's education system. Does this result offer any hope for perhaps these two rivals coming together in a partnership? Because Tengku Razaleigh is also part of UMNO.
Yes, I think. But my first thought when I saw the press conference is that these are two very desperate old men who's trying to be relevant in Malaysian politics, who's trying to offer themselves to take over the leadership of Malaysia if Muhyiddin falls. It's quite clear that they do not have any real support. Mahathir is still a political icon. He has some support on the ground among the rural Malay community, but I doubt very much Kuli has any real support in the Malay community. So I think it came across as a attempt by two desperate old time politicians who's trying to come back into power, and I think nobody took them seriously. And today's vote shows that nobody was listening. Now, having said that, the fact that Kuli is willing to stand with Mahathir is highly significant. As you know, Kuli was the one who tried to lead a coup against Mahathir back in 1987, a long time ago. And since then, he has never stood with Mahathir on any political platform. So this is the first time he has come to Mahathir and stand with Mahathir and say, we have to get rid of the current government. So in that sense, it's significant. But on the other hand, for the general public, it is not a significant event.
And Malaysia continues to see high infection numbers for COVID-19. How has it been a help or a hindrance for Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin, this pandemic?
I think the pandemic was actually a good thing for Perikatan. If you remember, Perikatan only assumed power on the 1st of March this year. So for the first few months, they were scrambling to take control of the government. And because of the COVID crisis, they were able to postpone all parliamentary sittings. It means that nobody was able to scrutinize what they were doing. So that gave them a bit of breathing space, allows the government to stabilize in a way. So the COVID thing politically has been a very good thing for Muhyiddin. But of course, economic-wise, it has been a disaster for the Malaysian economy. Now, coming back to the budget, I can tell you that in my discussions with a lot of business people in Malaysia, they are sort of not very happy that the government did not throw big money in this budget because everybody understood that the Malaysian economy was in big trouble. And if you want to restart the economy, the business community would have liked the Malaysian government to pass a much, much bigger budget in order to restart the economy so that the process of rebuilding the Malaysian economy can begin.
But the Malaysian government is saying there will be economic growth from 2021. So, what is the priority for Malaysia in the next 6 to 12 months, and what effect will this budget just passed have on the people of Malaysia in the coming year?
Right. So, the budget priority is the same for all countries around the world, which is to restart the economy. All the countries in the world which had a lockdown, basically what you're doing is that lockdown basically means that you're sending the workers home and the economy is more or less shut, especially the manufacturing sectors, because you can't keep what they call it, the factories open. And on the consumer side, you shut down all the shopping centers, all the cafes and everything, so people can't spend the money. So essentially, you're shutting down the economy. So most countries around the world right now are using next year's budget to try to restart the economy. In other words, they're using a fiscal measure. Some people say they're just giving out free money to restart the economy. So Malaysia is also doing that as well. But as I mentioned, they're not doing it in big enough numbers. Growth will, of course, come back. Remember, when you shut down the economy, of course, growth recede. So once you restart the economy, obviously you're going to have growth. The question is that whether you can get back the employment that you lost during the COVID crisis, and whether some of the industries that were really badly hit by the COVID crisis, whether they can restart. Because we know that there are certain things that are in big trouble. For example, if you look at the experience of the West, one of the sectors that's in big trouble is real estate, especially commercial real estate. A lot of companies realize that a lot of the workers can actually work at home, so they don't need to take out expensive leases for real estate. They can keep some of the workers at home, and some of these people will carry on. So even if the economy recovers, they'll still be working from home, so that the employees don't have to rent expensive premises for them.
Professor, always good talking to you. Professor James Chin is a director at the Asia